So to get started, we're on Jira. We have two users out here, Matthew and myself. Now I'll switch over to the Zendesk side. The field that I'm using is called Jira Assignee, and right now it has those two users populated in the drop-down, which I'm just going to remove. And I'll just have a dummy value because it doesn't let me save anything without a dummy value. Right, so this is the drop-down Jira Assignee which I'm going to use, and let's now create something. Right, so the field is this Jira Assignee. That's not good. Let's refresh. Okay, better. So the refresh fixed it, so I just have this one value. Cool, so now let's send this over to the Jira side. Let's see how this works. Okay, so it's synced over. Right, so we've got our test ticket 2 here, unassigned, all as well. Now, how this works is that if I make an update on the Jira ticket, what this does is that along with the payload of the actual change, it takes all the users which are currently Jira and sends them over to the Zendesk ticket. Now, that would mean that your drop-down should soon be populated. Right, so my change has come through, and what that means is that this drop down should now be hopefully populated with those two values. Right, so it brought over the two users out there. Now if I assign the ticket to myself from the Zendesk side, which was I think the main purpose of this use case, this would assign the ticket to the Jira ticket to the correct user, and once it syncs over, we'll try to change the user. Yeah, so it syncs over, and now let's try to assign it to another agent, and this should now reflect back on the Jira Assignee fields. So essentially, the fields would be in sync all the time, right? Cool. So now the interesting part happens when we start to add new accounts. So let's say I've added a personal account to the Jira users list. Now you'll have to bear with me while I get the invite and accept it. So I got the invite. And that's fine. I don't need to do anything really. The only thing I would want to do is not out here. We'll do profile and visibility. So the thing is that you need to ensure that the email address is visible for the API. So this setting should be like anyone. This is quite important because otherwise the API cannot really see what we want to see. Right, so this user is invited. Now it should change to active hopefully because I have logged in already. Cool, so it is active now. So now if I send a change over from Jira, this should take along with it the new payload, which means the new user should now appear on the Zendesk side. Right, so I've got reiteration 4, and now let's refresh. And the test user is now active. It is there. So yeah, so the use case is that as soon as you add users, I mean, it works on both ways. So if I want to remove this user now, again, I don't know how quickly the API syncs up, but this should be pretty much real time. So right, so now when the payload arrives, this should sync over and complete, basically remove the test user from the drop down. Right, so the iteration 5 has arrived, and yeah, so the test user is gone from here. So this is basically how you do it. So how it would be done would be from the Jira side. In the outgoing part, you need to send out all the assignees. So you run a custom endpoint, you pick up all the users within that project. So the only thing you'll have to change within the call is this project. So this is the project key. CM is my project key. So the only thing you'll have to change is there. And this would be Jira sending out stuff. Now on the Zendesk side, you'll have to include a couple of classes. I'll include this code. But basically how it happens is within these API calls from where you populate the assignee information arriving. Now, the point that I showed you about the email address being visible is pretty important. So if you look at the payload out here, Jira sends over two things, right? It sends over the assignee email and it sends over the assignee name, like the actual name you see in the dropdown. Now the email is crucial in order to get the assignment working both ways. And if the email is restricted to admins, then this won't be visible to the API. So that setting is pretty important. All right, hope this helps. Thank you.